Hey guys, and welcome to my commentary for Jurassic Park. Please excuse any sirens you might hear going past. I live quite close to a main road, and the emergency services use it all the time. And if I sound a bit groggy, it's because I'm coming off the tail end of being sick all last week. Had a bit of a flu. Anyway, yes, break out the tiny violins. But yes, this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And because Jurassic Park 4, in other words, is out in like 20 days, 22 days, something like that, I really wanted to get these sort of done just before that all kicks off so we can all revisit the films together. So I'm watching the Blu-ray version. I haven't pressed play yet because we're going to have to sync up. Obviously, this is just audio because I can't put the films on my YouTube channel or the old Mr. Copyright law man will come round and take everything I own. But no, yeah, so this is just audio, so we're going to sync up. I've basically paused it. The screen is completely black on the Blu-ray, and I'll press play, and then I'll tell you what I see so you can sort of sync it up. I think if we do it in like 3, 2, 1, and then press play, we should be okay. Yeah, so it's the Blu-ray copy, and I'm watching on my PlayStation 3, so any technical wizards out there who want to get everything synced up properly, there you go. Anyway, so here we go. I'm about to press play. So 3, 2, 1, play. Yep, the old Universal logo from the 90s has now faded up. And here we go. Yeah, I've got my tea with me. I've got a cup of tea. It's obviously not going to last 2 hours because I can drink boiling hot tea like it's just water now. I've scalded the inside of my mouth so badly that it's all like just I've burnt away all the nerve endings. So it's now saying an Amblin Entertainment production. Now I first saw this film when I was 4 years old. My mum took me to go see it at the cinema. It was 1993. And my sister was taken to a park or some play area for 2 hours with my nan, while my mum took me to go see this film because even before Jurassic Park, I had this rubber dinosaur toy that I was obsessed with, and I guess my mum figured that he might enjoy this, and well, now you know, Mum. Now you know. But yes. Yeah, this is what kick-started my love of storytelling and everything. And I'm sure I'm not the only 20-something or 30 or teenage person saying that sentence. There's many, many of us out there. And quite interesting that, thanks to social media, since the announcement of Jurassic World, we've all come together and it's been an amazing experience, especially the last 2 years. It's been incredible. Anyway, let's talk about the film. It says Isla Nublar, 120 miles off the west coast of Costa Rica. And we get our first look at Robert Muldoon in this very misty, darkly lit, nighttime scene where all the Jurassic Park workers are, moving this raptor to the feeding pen. And they have to manually push the box in. I always figured as a kid why they manually push the box in, and why they literally get someone to climb on top and lift the gate up, is basically so if there's any fault whatsoever with if it was all mechanical, if there was a fault whatsoever, the raptor might get out and kill someone. Now, obviously, they take all the precautions they can to avoid a scenario like that, and yet the raptor still manages to completely mess up this situation and have a nice tasty snack on the worker. Yeah. When seeing this in the cinema when I was 4, I don't really remember anything about the experience aside from the T-Rex chasing the Jeep sequence. I remember that vividly in my memory when it roars into the mirror. This is just such a great A great opening sequence. Classic Spielberg. And with the death of the worker, as we see his fingers slip through and we fade to De Niro, the ball has started rolling. The snowball effect has already begun. And here we have a first look at Martin Ferrero as Donald De Niro. And always makes me wonder that he's getting pulled along on that wooden raft. And I've always wondered, ever since I was little, how did they get that raft? Oh, I see now. I've got the Blu-ray now, so I can see there's a gentleman way off in the distance. He'll obviously have another rope to pull it back. Yes, there we go. Just answered my own question. See, there you go. Look, 22 years later and still learning things about this film. I just love the whole storytelling elements from this film. Like, you know, you've got the man in the suit and he trips over on the rock, and that specifically is in the film, I guess, to show things that are unpredictable. That no matter, you know, you can look as smart and you can think you're in control of everything, but you might just trip over. And on that note, here's our first siren. As expected. Oh, and a second one. Look at that. Yes, there's a hospital and a fire station and a police station just up the road from where I currently live in London. So I'm burdened with trying to make videos and stuff constantly with sirens going off left, right and centre. I would say it's inconsiderate, but you know, people's lives are at stake. And here we see, you know, Grant and his team unearthing this Velociraptor skeleton. Now, there is a fan theory in this because the Velociraptors are so anatomically incorrect that InGen misclassified the raptor, but Grant in this scene actually says it's a Velociraptor, so you know that's not the case. In the Jurassic Park universe, it's just Velociraptors are that big. Yeah, it's just strange that the Jurassic Park universe is very different to the real world, because I'm adamant that it's not really about dinosaurs, you know, being, I don't know, portrayed 100% correctly. Obviously, with the Dilophosaurus and its frill and the way it spits venom, and the T-Rex's vision's based on movement, and the Raptors, you know, Velociraptors being more like Deinonychus or even Utahraptors, you know, and now all featherless. It tends to lean way more on the genetic tampering side of storytelling, which still feels ridiculously Jurassic Park to me, because, you know, that's what this whole film's about. The whole chaos theory effect and everything Malcolm's talking about, it just fits in thematically, and yeah. So I've never had an issue with dinosaurs being portrayed incorrectly, because essentially the whole ideas of cloning things it stems from, if you try to bring something back, it will never be the same again. And we have real life examples for that. I mean, in movies, let's talk about movies specifically. When Alien Resurrection came out, Alien Resurrection is all about cloning, and in that film they clone Ellen Ripley, and she's not the same because she's blended with the alien, and even the aliens themselves aren't the same because they're blended with human DNA. But then the movie itself sticks out like a sore thumb to the previous 3 installments because it's a different breed of movie altogether, stylistically and you know, with the amount of comedy in there and the way the way it's told in a way. And I have a feeling that, despite my I'd say hatred for Alien Resurrection as an Alien movie, uh, as a movie on its own, it stands up. And I have a feeling that Jurassic World is reviving the Jurassic Park franchise, but it's going to be a new animal altogether. Let's put it that way. So I'm not, come June 12th when it's released, my advice is for people to sit down and realize that, it's not 1993 anymore. We're living in a completely different era of movies, but this is the Jurassic Park film of this time. And for me, I'm excited by that. It's shaping up to be one heck of a good romp. And if anyone's worried about the movie being bad or anything like that, it's like if you sit down and as a Jurassic Park fan and think, I really love The Lost World, or I really love Jurassic Park 3, those films, they aren't looked at by the casual audience or critics as good movies, but we still love them. And isn't that just the whole point? If you sit down in the cinema and watch Jurassic World and you really love it, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's yeah. And I mean, personally, most of the movies I've loved over the years, like Pacific Rim and Prometheus and Tron Legacy and The Lone Ranger, John Carter, just to name a few. It's like they weren't amazingly well received by critics, and so it's all down to your personal opinion, is what I'm trying to get at. And obviously, I could be talking about the movie we're watching. Actually, let's go on to that. So here we go. We've got Alan Grant meeting John Hammond for the first time, and I love that the first time we see John Hammond, he's popping a champagne bottle instantly. He's celebrating with them. He's made the assumption that they're going to say yes, because he's cracked open the champagne and he's about to wave a check in their face and blow their minds. And it's a contradiction of what Hammond says in a few seconds, where he says, I like you, the both of you. I can tell instantly about people. He's staying true to that statement by popping the champagne bottle, but it's a bit contradictory, because how would he know that they would say yes? It's John Hammond's wicked way with people. He's a very good people person. And that being said, obviously in this movie, the only person who he doesn't get on with is Dennis Nedry, and look what happens. Grant's wearing a long sleeve shirt, very similar to the one we see in Jurassic Park 3. I've always found that cat very funny at the back. You've got like toy dinosaurs and all these tools, and then there's just this 2D cardboard cutout of a cat just above Ellie Sattler's head. And there's a dustbuster in the middle of them. Obviously, R.I.P. to Richard Attenborough, one of the greatest actors. He's so watchable. I mean, I love Miracle on 34th Street, the remake. I love both versions of that film, but the remake, because it's Richard Attenborough, obviously, when I was a kid, had a bit more of an effect on me, because that was the gentleman who played John Hammond. But I also loved Flight of the Phoenix he was in. Two personal favourite films outside of Jurassic that he was in, and yeah, sad to lose him last year, but hey, that's the way things go. Time moves forward, or let's just say we experience time moving forward. And I guess there's a beauty in that. Where's the plane? That's essentially what she's saying. And then they're celebrating, but they have no idea. And here we meet Dodson. Dodson. Obviously, he leaves the car door open to the taxi, and the guy's, annoyed by that. So it shows that we don't like this character already, right off the bat. And here we meet Dennis Nedry. Chowing down. The first time we see him, he's eating. And he talks with his mouth full. Dodson, we've got Dodson here. See, nobody cares. Nice hat. What you trying to look like? Secret agent? Just trying to sync my voice up. I put on Twitter the other day that obviously the actor who plays the actor who plays Dodson, Cameron 4, he won't be returning for a future Jurassic film if they ever bring this character back. I would personally cast Clark Gregg, who plays what's his face, Agent. Oh my god, I can't even remember his name. It's from the Avengers series. Oh my god. But anyway, I'd cast Clark Gregg, the actor. Just look him up. His voice is very similar. I think if someone was to direct him correctly, he could play a mean Dodson in a future film. Because it's quite helpful that Cameron 4 wears shades throughout this entire scene, so we don't really get a good look at him properly. Don't get cheap on me, Johnson. That was Hammond's mistake. And here we go. Now we're about to meet the greatest character in the Jurassic Park franchise so far. Mr. Ian Malcolm. Or Dr. Ian Malcolm, should I say. I really like one of the things that I feel like that brought kids on board with this movie. Obviously, Jurassic Park. I don't think anyone would dispute that Jurassic Park is a family film. It got everyone involved, and it was a perfect film to bring your family to and watch. And kids obviously love the idea of dinosaurs and the action and. But also the characters. I remember being a kid and just loving the characters, and I feel like that as a child, I never personally related to Tim and Lex as much as I think a lot of people would expect. Being so young when seeing this, I related more to the adults because you want to be them, and I feel like the kids are in the movie because the adults who watch the movie relate to the kids because. If they are a family, they bring their kids to see this film and remember being a kid and how they would react in this sort of situation. So now, as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself relating more to Tim and Lex than I am Grant or Malcolm or Ellie. But yeah, another layer to that, in my opinion, of why the characters in this film. Was so well cemented in everyone's minds was the costumes. They're very I dare I say it, simple costumes. You've got blue, pink, black, white, and grey. Here we see all the character demeanours instantly. Gennaro's panicking, Malcolm's smooth, and then we see Grant, and he can't get those two female ends to fit together. And this is obviously foreshadowing the dinosaurs being all female in the park. And with Grant's quick thinking, life finds a way and he ties it together. It's a lovely storytelling metaphor that's ingrained in our minds very subtly before we've even landed on the island. But yes, just going back to the characters' costumes, they're all very simple. And all the workers are wearing pink and beige, and Muldoon's wearing a completely beige outfit. It's just the costume design is a very very clever. And I love that on the Jurassic Park Blu-ray, you can now see that Richard Attenborough is wearing a white vest underneath that outfit. Never noticed that before. Here we've got the classic Jeeps, 18 and 29, I do believe. And they're some of the most iconic vehicles to ever be on screen. I think, in my personal opinion, the most iconic vehicle in any movie ever is the DeLorean from Back to the Future. And I don't think anything can top it, because the DeLorean goes through so many stages and evolutions, and obviously you're jumping back through time and all this sort of stuff, that it doesn't stay consistent, but it does in a way. Now we've got Gennaro talking to Hammond, grueling him on what's going on. Are the motion sensors in place? Are the tracking systems? Are the moats all okay? And Hammond says, in 48 hours, I'll be accepting your apology. Which is kind of sad to think, because of what happens, obviously, during the events of this film. We can see Ellie Sattler has the leaf, that's plucked from a prehistoric plant. And now we get Grant having his dreams realised. The look on his face is priceless. And Ellie, in classic form, is so invested in the work that she doesn't even spot the giant Brachiosaurus. There it is. Obviously, this whole sequence here might be the greatest moment in Jurassic Park history. It's definitely one of the greatest moments in cinematic history, because despite the CGI on this Blu-ray not holding up 100% to what we get nowadays in pretty much every film, it sells itself perfectly regardless. And at the time, obviously in 93, when you had analog cinemas with film and VHS, the effects looked even better. But I'm of the crowd that, despite saying that the CGI has some issues, it was 1993 and I would never want them to change it. It looks beautiful. And I still look at it, and the dinosaur, I believe that Brachiosaurus is stood there in front of these characters. Well, we clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour. Say it again. You got a T-Rex? Say again. Oh, we have a T-Rex. And there we go, the classic line. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Grant looks over, and holy crap. We see the two Brachiosaurus emerging from the lake, and a herd of Parasaurolophus grazing nearby. And it's interesting because on the Blu-ray you can see that the Parasaurolophus have green bodies with blue stripy tails and red heads, which is different to the ones we get in The Lost World and from what we've seen in the trailers for Jurassic World. If you look carefully, there's subtle differences. Which again, between each movie, the differences between the dinosaurs is never 100%. I say 100%. It hasn't really bothered me at all because, genetic tampering. There's the classic visitors center, still being built. Because we have to remember that this park, despite them saying that it's close to opening, it's, I would say, it's probably a good 6, 7, maybe even a year away from opening, even at this point, because they're painting the walls. They've got that huge hole in the side of the visitors center. Things still need to be happening, but you kind of get the feeling that he keeps plugging the line, "We spared no expense," but have they? And my answer would be yes. They've quickly slapped a lot of things together. Some of the evidence for that is like the seatbelts in the helicopter, or the fact that this ride you can push the bar forward and get off it at will. And obviously, this is the explaining about the cloning, and it always makes me laugh that this film has a miniature cartoon sequence right in the middle of it, but it works. Mr. DNA. And here we go. This is the cartoon sequence. He's a blueprint for building a living thing. You got Grant watching intensely. Now it's interesting to note that they explain that the dinosaur's blood is taken from mosquitoes, that suck the blood of dinosaurs. And in the book, they took the blood from mosquitoes, but they also found DNA when cracking open fossils, and we now know today that they can actually find fragments of dinosaur DNA in fossils, because they found the soft tissue of a T-Rex. It had to be a T-Rex, didn't it? But and then obviously in Jurassic World, they use both techniques like the original book. That's how they got the Mosasaurus. That's what was confirmed recently. So Mr. DNA is going to be making a comeback. Apparently, he can be seen on the Jurassic World website, and we've missed him. I wonder if they could clone an animal or genetically tamper an animal to be Mr. DNA. I wonder if that's Dr. Wu's ultimate goal, is to morph himself into Mr. DNA. That'd be hideous. And there we go. We're going to take the ride. Even though he just said there weren't any rides, they take a ride. Okay, so I'm actually put out on Twitter before recording this that I've got a few questions that I can answer. So I've got a few sent in already, so I'll do one do one now. Let me just pull one up. What we got here? Chris Torby, you're the first one. He asks, how would you conclude the Jurassic Park franchise? A tough ask, considering the antagonists are the reason people watch these films. Yes. How would I conclude it? Well, really, you've got to look at it this way, in my opinion. It's the ending of the movie. The dinosaurs are either wiped off our planet and become extinct again, or they are left to evolve on the island. I think I'd prefer the latter, because or they integrate into our society, I guess. Do you know what? How would I conclude it? I would have it end pretty much similar to how the Lost World ends. I'd have the dinosaurs just be left to mature on their own, and then we can, let the expanded universe explain it. I have said this before that if Jurassic World turns out to be the last Jurassic movie, I'm personally, as a fan, not too fussed, because we've waited 14 years for a fourth film, and now we've got it, and I think that's fine. I wouldn't want it to become something like what the Marvel franchise is doing at the moment, or or Star Wars, and have millions of films to do with Jurassic Park. I think, I like that there's, less is more in a kind of way. It's like Back to the Future. I love the Back to the Future trilogy. I think it's the greatest trilogy of movies out there of all time. And I love that, the only thing I could see happening with that is they'd probably remake it. And that's how I see some, like Jurassic Park going down, maybe way off in the future. I can imagine someone adapting the book to be more adult, but who knows? That's how I'd end it. In answer to your question, Chris Torby, is have the dinosaurs just be left, and maybe we research them like we do animals today, and then Richard Attenborough's brother, could make a documentary about dinosaurs. Now, while we've been talking about this, we're missing this whole scene where we meet Dr. Wu. Obviously, he was a huge character in the book, and was cut down significantly for this film, but he's making a big return in Jurassic World. And I love that there was an InGen viral video released recently online, and BD Wong plays Wu, obviously, and he's nailed the character from the first film again. He feels like Wu. Wu is definitely back, and it was so refreshing to see him being Dr. Wu again. But in Jurassic Park, obviously, this is young Dr. Wu, so he might be a little bit naive, whereas the Wu we're probably going to see in Jurassic World is a little bit more matured as a scientist. He's learned some things over the years. And this is when Grant's fears start to peak a little bit, when he hears they've bred raptors. Because he has his own personal theories about these dinosaurs, and now he's literally holding one in the palm of his hand. And I love that he's just like stroking its nose with his thumb. Like, what if that baby wanted to snap? You can see it already had like needle sharp teeth. We see the cow being lifted into the feeder. Chilean sea bass. It's interesting to note that baby velociraptor in that last scene, was reluctant to lie. Well, it was actually quite comfortable to lie in Grant's hand and let him, rub his fingers over it. Maybe it's, emulating what Grant was doing, was emulating a parent dinosaur licking it, so it sort of let him do it. Whereas I imagine like these dinosaurs, much like animals in the wild, if they were born naturally, would just instantly get up and run. And there's even evidence for that in this film, because when Grant finds the raptor nest later on, you see the footprints of the young go literally from the eggs out into the brush. There we go, here's Muldoon with his short shorts and his socks hoiked nearly up to his knees. And he says they should all be destroyed. Now, Me and my friend Ross, we constantly have this joke about Muldoon being just so bad at his job. He's just the worst. Like, you know, the first scene we meet him, a worker dies under his supervision. And then the next time we see him here, he's saying that they should all be destroyed and you know, giving us information about how the raptors behave. Then we see him, you know, sit on his ass for like half the movie until he goes out with the Jeep. And then, like, he's the first one to say, Ellie, come on! Like that, once they find Malcolm. He doesn't want to find out where the other car's gone or where the children have gone. He just wants to get out of there because he's scared of the T-Rex. And then the next time we see him, he is hunting a raptor and falls exactly for the behaviour that he's accustomed to, in a way, I guess. I love Muldoon, don't get me wrong. He is an awesome character played by Bob Peck, but my word, you know, he's not as cool as Roland Tembo. Let's just put it that way. This is one of probably my favourite scene from Jurassic Park. You know, regarding the human characters. And I can actually quote this whole thing from start to finish. I don't know if I should try it, actually. Something like, gee, the lack of humility displayed before nature here staggers me. Well, thank you, Dr. Malcolm, but things are a little bit different than you and I first feared. Yeah, I know, they're a lot worse. Now, wait a second, we haven't even seen the park yet. Well, don't, let him talk, No, I want to hear every viewpoint, I really do. Yeah, John, don't you see the danger in what you're doing here? I'm not going to do it. Get a few drinks in me, and I could probably do the whole scene from start to finish. I've got some friends I was entertaining at a party not too long ago, and they all, you know, got me to bloody do this. But I'd muddle it up. It's one of those things when you've sat down on your knees as a kid and watched this movie over and over and over again, it becomes like when you listen to a song and you know all the lyrics to it, and then you go away from it for a while and you come back and you listen to it, and then you suddenly find yourself still singing the lyrics even though you haven't heard it for ages. It's like that. Like, I don't watch Jurassic Park, the first film at least, as much as I did as when I was a young kid. You know, admittedly, I still watch it more than probably 3 or 4 times a year, but when I was a kid, it was crazy amounts. Like, within 2 weeks, I'd probably watch it at least 3 times. So it ingrained in my mind all the dialogue and the mannerisms of each character that the actors bring, and just makes me laugh. But this scene's fantastic, where they're all butting heads. I mean, how can we stand in the light of discovery and not act? Oh, what's so great about discovery? It's a violent, penetrative act that scars what you're trying to... I call the rape of the natural world. And I love that there's this online cult community that basically worships Jeff Goldblum and all his glory, because he is he's a very unique personality and perfect for this series of movies. He was the perfect casting choice for Ian Malcolm. I'm just gonna get more comfortable because my legs have gone numb. Well, that's all changed so radically, and we're all running to catch up. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but look. Dinosaurs and man, 2 species separated by 65 million years of evolution, have suddenly been thrown back into the mix together. I mean, how can we have any idea of what to expect? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You're meant to come down here and defend me against these characters, and the only one I've got on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer. Thank you. Alright, that's enough. Maybe a couple of quotes later on, but Christ. it's one of those weird things where I fall into this nostalgic pit of just quoting, and I've had people in the past being like, "Oh, for God's sake, shut up." Become self-aware. Here we have Lex and Tim. Two shining examples of having child actors in a film and them not being annoying. And yes, there will be people out there who say Lex screams too much, but you know, it's meant to be like a homage to Anne Darrow from King Kong and all that sort of stuff. And you know, they even had the actress who played Anne Darrow on set of Jurassic Park visit the T-Rex breakout sequence. Here we have a touchscreen from 1993. And you know, if you want to get specifics, this was probably filmed in 1991 or 92, and touchscreens and self-driving cars were, you know, being presented as futuristic technology. And now, obviously, our phones all have touchscreens, and self-driving cars. Excuse me. Oof. Self-driving cars are now being marketed and are hitting the streets. I know in January Google released their self-driving car. I don't know, you know, how far it is or how available it is or how expensive it is. I haven't actually done too much research on that, but yeah, it's the Jurassic Park franchise has always sort of predicted future technologies in a way. Well, not predicted it, but showed you almost what's coming. You know, the latest technology. It's interesting because in The Lost World you have, you know, GPS with Eddie Carr using GPS to find Sarah's phone, and they're all using sort of like mobile satellite phones, which, you know, glitch up in the movie, but it wasn't in 1997. It was that point that mobile phones were really about to start kicking off as something that would eventually ingrain itself very heavily into our culture. That everyone has a phone, even kids nowadays. And you know, their 3D models of tracking weather satellites is almost like, I guess, like Google Earth. But even Jurassic Park 3, let's not forget, Jurassic Park 3 has the 3D printer. And that was in 2001. They had the 3D printer print out the vocalization chamber of the Velociraptor. Admittedly, something that was a bit of a stupid gimmick in the movie, but nonetheless, they used it to sort of foreshadow 3D printing, and now that's, you know, I think it was like 2010, that sort of time frame where it really kicked off, and now it's almost commonplace. Many things are made with 3D printers. So Jurassic World obviously has a ridiculous amount of future technology in it. You've got holograms we've seen from the trailers. You've got the gyrospheres. You've got the fact that they're tampering with the DNA to you know, change dinosaurs, you know, the way they look. You know, they in the InGen viral video they sort of talk about how they close off certain proteins and I guess genes to stop something from growing. So that's how you can create like a baryonyx into something that resembles a Suchomimus or vice versa, or a Spinosaurus if you want to go that far. And you know, at this very time, there was a news update only a few, or like a week ago, maybe, or 2 weeks ago, where they were talking about scientists currently, you know, looking into breeding a chicken with a crocodilian or almost dinosaur-like snout by turning off some certain genes that gives it the beak, to see if they can actually give birth to an avian-like dinosaur. Basically reverse its evolution in a way, which is a very, very strange concept to get your head around, that we as a species are sort of unlocking things like that. And the Jurassic Park, this is why I love the Jurassic Park franchise, because it feels like science fiction, but then by the time the next film is released, the science of the previous film is now science fact. The only underlining thing that's not fact is actually cloning dinosaurs. Obviously, as far as we know. So we just missed the whole scene where the Dilophosaurus doesn't make a show, and that's leading on to the sort of foreshadowing that the park, they can't control the dinosaurs. Essentially, they can't make them do what they want. It's like a real zoo. When you go to a real zoo, and then sometimes you just see like, you know, a snake hidden under its log, but you can barely see it, or a lion just sleeping under a tree way off in the distance and doesn't even wake up. Interesting to note again here that Nedry is actually watching Jaws on his computer. Muldoon. They're approaching the Tyrannosaur paddock. He's got a very good scared stare as Bob Peck. The fear is real in his eyes. And here we see the T-Rex paddock. Filmed on set in Hawaii. I do believe that they actually built this T-Rex paddock out in Hawaii, and then for the actual breakout sequence, they rebuilt this set, or emulated this set in a warehouse, an enclosed stage at Universal, and so they could get the animatronic, because they couldn't obviously fly the whole T-Rex animatronic out to Hawaii. God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs. Dinosaurs eat man. Woman inherits the earth. Yes, there you go. Screw you, Malcolm, with your man talk. This always makes me laugh. Like, where was that goat stored? There must be like a conveyor belt of goats under the ground that, that goat's sitting in, or it's like led into a pen, or they actually, it must be back near the visitor centre. They, tie a goat to that pole, put it in a pen, and then it slowly is, driven underground, or it might even be overground actually, and then goes underground to then pop up in the T-Rex paddock. But it just makes me laugh that it comes out of the ground. It's not like it randomly, it's not like they put bales of hay or its food near the fence and then have loads of goats just randomly walking around inside that paddock. They obviously want the T-Rex to come to the fence so everyone can see it, but it just doesn't work. Yet, in a way. Nice to note it says interior monitor vehicle 5. So the car that Malcolm, Grant and Ellie are in is vehicle number 5. So there's a lot more Land Cruisers, well at least 5 of them, let's just say, on Isla Nublar of the Ford Explorers. The essence of chaos. I love Ian Malcolm in this movie, how cocky he is, how almost arrogant, how arrogant he is, and how flirty he is around women. But then in the second film, he's a matured character, which is why I prefer The Lost World over Jurassic Park 3, because if anything, Grant in Jurassic Park 3 as the main character, he hasn't progressed at all in Jurassic Park 3, and I'll get to that in my commentary when I do that one, because I will be doing the other 2 films in the coming weeks. Grant obviously gets bought out by money again, and he has to bond with a kid across the island. He interacts with Charlie at the start of the film, and it doesn't really work, and calls him the dinosaur man. It's just, it's just a repeat in a way of Grant's story arc in this film, and instead of progressing it further, which is what they did with Malcolm in, excuse the siren, Malcolm in The Lost World. There we go. Grant gets out. And I've always loved that there's these two cameras at the front of the car. Like, the car has two eyes monitoring the road. I always used to think when I was little that it looked like Short Circuit was looking over the dashboard, driving the car. Now, obviously, that line, "How many times have I told you? We need locking mechanisms on the vehicle doors," is one of the things that, if that was in a movie today, people would rip this to shreds. They would be on the forums going, "What the hell, this movie's so stupid, it's got no locking mechanisms on the car doors, what did they expect," and all this, that and the other. But no one cares about that line as much because it's in Jurassic Park. And it's one of those things where, like, movies today, I feel like they get torn to shreds for the most part from nitpicking rather than just, going along for the ride in a way. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it is ridiculously stupid that the tour vehicles don't have locking mechanisms on the doors when you're driving people around a dinosaur park, but I always found that as quite funny. Obviously, this is the first shot that Stan Winston Studios did for the movie. The first scene, should I say, where they have the Triceratops, the sick Triceratops, lying down. And it just looks incredible. I always felt really sad for it because, after a heavy night's drinking, I've been in this sort of position, just lying there like, ugh. And I love that you can see that there's actually bird crap on the Triceratops. These stupid birds have come along and just crapped on this sick Triceratops. They don't care. That horrible thing that Ellie bursts on its tongue. All this mucus or whatever, all this gunk comes out of it, and it's like, oh, Ellie, Christ. She's inadvertently hurting that animal. Now, I'm a big advocate that of CGI being underrated. I'm one of those people who say that I think CGI is very much underrated because it's an amazing tool that a lot of work from a lot of people go into. But I feel like why a lot of people tend to, bash CGI for the most part is mainly because the personal, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when Ray Harryhausen made stop motion films, it was just him, and the personal touch is sort of gone in a way. But CGI now has, instead of a personal touch from one person, they have a style that's brought to the screen from many different people and many different companies. Now, I'm not the sort of person who uses that as a way of judging whether it's good or bad. It's how it sells the story. If I watch, like Pacific Rim, for example, is of a recent movie that is very CG heavy. I was sucked into that world because I was just sold by what I was watching. I was like, "Yep, this is fantastic," and regardless of the effects used, and Jurassic World obviously is going to have a lot of CGI in it, and I'm not bothered by that as long as it the painting tells the story that I enjoy. And Jurassic Park is, in my books, it is the shining example of how special effects can be utilised to tell a story. and add to the world building. But I wouldn't say Jurassic Park is the greatest special effects I've ever seen, like in terms of realism. Um, I used to say that when I was younger. I used to go, it has the greatest CGI ever, and this, that, and the other. In terms of realism, it I don't know. It's kind of a sticky. It's a grey area in a way. It's like, yes, I think Jurassic Park CGI is my favourite CGI ever on film, but I wouldn't say it's the best that's out there. It's the CGI that in this movie that I personally, it's like candy for my eyes to watch, but I wouldn't say it's the most realistic looking in a sense. But the industry has evolved over the years. It hasn't been a swift change. It hasn't been like an overnight change, should I say? It's been a very slow process, and when you have a movie like Jurassic World coming out, a lot of people tend to, compare it to a film that was made 22 years ago, and expect the same kind of filmmaking to be employed, and basically in the world we live in, that's impossible. You can't recreate the past 100%. Jurassic Park tells us that. So what have we got? That's what we need to know, and June 12th we'll know. Now we're coming up to the bit where the film is about to all go wrong. We're coming up to the hour mark. Nedry is initiating his plan. He's got 18 minutes to get off the island with some embryos for the rival company, which is never named in this movie, but a lot of fans, know that it's Biosyn because Dodson in the books worked for Biosyn. But, the books and the films are two separate entities. So in this film, we never know who Dodson's working for in this universe. He could be working for anyone. You got this great scene where Grant asks Malcolm if he's got any kids, which is nice because it means Grant has been thinking about what Ellie has said, and he's been thinking about what, meeting Tim and Lex, and he's thinking about the experience that they're going on, because even though it's raining at this point, to them everything's still going smoothly. They don't know anything's going to go wrong, and it's nice that Grant is thinking about what's been said, and he's contemplating where he stands on the issue of children. It's perfect writing, in a way. Obviously, you got Ray Arnold, the chain smoker, played by Samuel L. Jackson. And I love that there's only minimal staff. Like they said, that the boat is leaving, and they've got minimal staff over the weekend. So, the group of Grant, Malcolm, and Ellie aren't distracted by it being built. I guess they're there to go over things and not be like distracted by workers building stuff. And here we see Nedry taking the embryos in the classic Barbasol shaving cream can, which is a very iconic looking can, thanks to this movie. Perfect product placement, let's just put it that way. And here we go. The car stops. Grant's like, what happened? Then Malcolm says they've stopped. And here we get a nice overview of all the of the park, all the what should I call it? The fences, the perimeter fence, and all the paddock fences. And the classic Jurassic Park gates. Nedry has to override them to push them open in his Jeep. And as one of my favourite shots in the movie, you see the lightning flash, the Jeep pushes open the doors, and Jurassic Park pans up to the logo at the top of the gates. It's such a classic image for Jurassic Park. Obviously, Muldoon is concerned about the raptor fences for obvious reasons. And then they realise corporate espionage is going on right now because Nedry turned off every fence apart from the raptor fences, and now he's disappeared. Something foul is afoot. And he stupidly drives into the East Dock sign. Now this is the thing, obviously Nedry is panicking, but if he'd have just driven a little bit slower and a little bit calm, with stayed calm, he would have possibly have got to the East Dock, maybe on time, but if not, he possibly could have, waited, I guess, at the East Dock while everyone else panics and gets chomped on by the dinosaurs. He probably would have been eventually rescued, that's the point I'm getting to. But instead he panics and makes a lot of mistakes. And it's nice to note that, Nedry's plan is all going ahead perfectly, but it is Mother Nature that stops him. It's the storm, something that he couldn't predict. The storm causes the roads to be slippery and, fallen trees to block the way and all this sort of stuff. So it's nice that Mother Nature, just all it had to do was throw a little bit of rain down and Nedry's plan unravels like a ball of cotton in the claws of a kitten. I also like the subtle character nods in this because earlier we saw Malcolm drinking from a hip flask, drinking alcohol when he was talking to Grant about having children, and he offers Grant some of the alcohol, and Grant shakes his head. He doesn't want any of the alcohol. And then what we're about to see now is Grant holds a canister out of the car, collecting rainwater to drink, and then he offers some to Malcolm, who actually gladly accepts. Here we go. You can see here. It's just a nice subtle character piece between those two. And obviously the night vision goggles, another piece of technology that, night vision goggles. That, I don't know if, actually I'll have to look that up, whether they were clearly a thing that was going around, something that had been marketed widely at this time, or whether this was predicting yet another technology. Now, I've been listening to a lot of fan theories over the last few weeks. Obviously, in the lead up to Jurassic World, I've been researching as much as I can, or reading things about Jurassic Park. And, I wish I could remember who said this, but I think it's been around for a while because I think I've heard it before. But the impact tremors, the noise of the T-Rex's footprints, it's a fan theory, and one I happen to agree with, that the T-Rex, it basically all hinges on the T-Rex and the Raptor fight at the end. You don't hear the T-Rex come in through the side, and obviously some people have said, well, how come you wouldn't hear it? And I'm in the party that's with this theory, that the T-Rex stamps its feet to create these impact tremors when it's about to enter a new territory. And obviously, the T-Rex has realised at this point that the fence is no threat anymore, and she's warning other animals all around her that she's coming. Essentially, it's like a warning. Some elephants do it. Elephants communicate by slamming their feet on the ground to create impact tremors, and we know that this T-Rex is, entering a new territory because she stamps her feet to create the impact tremors that Tim here catches onto. And then, as we're about to see, she pulls the fence down, sways her head from side to side to check, her surroundings, and then gives out this humongous bellowing roar to announce her arrival into this new territory. Obviously, this is one of the most classic Jurassic Park shots of all time. There you go. She looks one side to another, and then the bellowing roar as she enters. Or as she escapes, whichever way you want to look at it. And this holds up in the sequels, actually, because one, the T-Rexes follow the characters across the island because of the blood on Sarah Harding's jacket. And obviously they're moving into new territory. Now, we don't hear the impact tremors at all in the first half of The Lost World. The only time we really properly hear the impact tremors is when at the campsite sequence, and Ian Malcolm looks down and sees the impact tremors happening. It's because they're now entering another territory. It's like they're warning other animals of their approach. And obviously, again, the Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3 does not create the impact tremors because it's not a character trait that it does. So that theory that, the T-Rexes create these impact tremors to warn animals of their approach, it's a perfect fan theory, and one that I believe exists in the Jurassic Park universe. This sequence is just so classic. I mean, what hasn't been said about this sequence? I could go into the whole behind the scenes, the T-Rex got the shakes because the animatronic got wet and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I always want to talk about something that I don't think anyone's really touched upon, before. And I remember being a kid, just this sequence, it never really terrified me. I just got more excited by it because I loved the T-Rex as a character, more than sort of an antagonist or an I just love the animal of the T-Rex. The fact that she just acts so much like a real animal. That car is all CGI, according to what I've seen on the behind the scenes feature. The car, the T-Rex there, all CGI. So for those of you who think that only the dinosaurs were done as CGI, there's a couple of examples that prove otherwise. Especially in The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, there's much more CGI being used, obviously, as the art was changing. And here's the classic. Grant holds out the flare and the T-Rex locks on. Now, Grant doesn't really throw it that far. I don't quite get what his plan was by throwing it there, and it's up to Malcolm to actually go, look, if you're going to make a sacrifice and you want to rescue those kids, you need to make the honourable sacrifice. And he throws the flare and the T-Rex is still, in hot pursuit. So Malcolm being flung, by the T-Rex, almost headbutting him away to safety, I guess, and Gennaro, left to soil himself in the right place, is picked up by the T-Rex and killed. So Malcolm just did a very heroic act there, and that aided Grant to save the kids. Lex's booming scream brings the T-Rex over. Now that foot that dropped down just then, I've actually touched that foot. There's a dinosaur adventure park near my home city of Norwich, out in the country in the UK. And in this like sort of dinosaur adventure park, they have like statues and animatronics of dinosaurs in the jungle. And they have this sort of steel works there where this gentleman builds all dinosaur skeletons out of like nuts and bolts and stuff, but like giant, almost life-size ones, and use like metalwork fossils in a way. But in there, randomly, I don't know if it's still there. I'm going to find out later this year. But they had the animatronic foot, or at least a big rubber version that was used on screen in the film, and it said "Do not touch" behind it. But I leant over the railing and gave the toes a squeeze, and it was all rubber and, just felt exactly how it looked. It was amazing. Very soft, but had all the scales. Looked pretty good in pretty good condition, actually. It had a picture of Spielberg and Goldblum and Sam Neill and Laura Dern all with the foot that this dinosaur adventure park has housed there. I'm really hoping it's still there because I forgot to get a picture with it. I couldn't believe I didn't have my camera on me at the time. This was only 4 or 5 years ago, I think. But yes, one of a nice little moment in my history of being a Jurassic Park fan. But yes, there we go. So the T-Rex is out and Grant has saved the kids. We find out that Nedry used a white rabbit object, which is from the novel, to undermine the park, and all his keystrokes are hidden. Okay, so I'm going to answer another question now from Twitter. I've got Harry Fasham has asked me 2 questions, but I'm going to pick one. If you could compare yourself to one of Jurassic Park characters, I'm guessing you're saying, who would I be if I was a Jurassic Park character? Do you know what? I feel like I'm a combination of Malcolm and Tim. There you go. I feel like I'm a combination of Malcolm because I love locking onto random and wild theories and connections and the whole control aspect in the storytelling of this film. That's what Malcolm as a character is actually saying within the film. But also Tim's wide-eyed sort of fascination with the animals and how excited he is by the whole adventure, even when the danger is present. So like when the car chases him down the tree and it lands on him, the first thing he says is, "Now we're back in the car again." And it's like, did you just realise the situation that was going on around you just then? So in answer to your question, yes, I'd be a combination of Malcolm and Tim. Here we go. Nedry has lost his glasses. And we are introduced to one of the most famous Jurassic Park dinosaurs that exists so far, and it's only in this one scene. And it's such an iconic looking animal as well, the way they designed it, because so many toy companies and books and modelling companies and all that sort of stuff, whenever they made dinosaur figures or whatever, would give the Dilophosaurus a frill. And it's just one of those things where it's like, that was just an artistic decision to have it in this film. It was like, what if we cloned a dinosaur back and it had something we never predicted it to have? Which could happen because, in all honesty, we haven't found that many as many fossils as people tend to believe of like one particular species. So really our understanding of them is very limited. Yes, in the second novel, the Carnotaurus clones could camouflage their skin much like a chameleon to surrounding jungles and even tennis courts in that book, and that was like another trait of the animal that they didn't know that it could have until they, brought it back to life. And the Dilophosaurus is a very creepy looking dinosaur. I think out of all the animals to meet in the park, I think, the Dilophosaurus is the one that I would hate to run into the most. Mainly because, because it can spit venom, it's almost like it's a dinosaur with a gun. It's like a dinosaur with a gun. Who would want to meet that? It can get you from a long distance. It doesn't even need to be stood right next to you or jumping on top of you to get you. And the fact that it paralyzes you to eat you is just while you're alive is just hideous. A hideous concept. I know a lot of people would say like either the pteranodons or the raptors would be the most scariest, but for me it is the Dilophosaurus. The fact that it's also that it's a very cute animal with its like sort of almost ostrich-like sound effects, and it acts kind of sweet, and then all of a sudden its ugly side is shown in a bright giant display of color. It's just it's just such a well-rounded character dinosaur, or dinosaur character, should I say? So this is Grant now beginning to realise he's got to bond with these children and sort of, in a way, control them. It's all part of his story arc. Now, a lot of people have, when I say a lot of people, I mean casual audience viewers, question the T-Rex Paddock, how did it knock the car off the edge that that the T-Rex was walking over a few seconds ago. But I think a lot of people don't realise that in the script, or that the T-Rex was meant to drag the car a little bit further down the road. And I think whether they filmed that or not, I don't know. But the car definitely moves position, and the evidence is when Ellie follows the debris, it goes away from the other car. So it's like the T-Rex almost dragged it, although we didn't really see that in the movie. But the moats, what Hammond is talking about, and with Janira at the beginning of the film, it's one of the moats, and the T-Rex needs a pretty deep moat, so it doesn't, it doesn't have. Basically, where the goat comes up is like one section of land that is on level with where the tour vehicles are. That's the way I've always looked at it. It's like a tiny section of land that meets the fence. And obviously, the logic behind that is to cut the chances of the T-Rex actually breaking out. Because if the ground was level completely with the fence, then all the way around the paddock, it might be quite. Or around where the tour vehicles go, it might be quite dangerous. But obviously it is, because this film, it breaks out. But that's the reasoning for why the car is further down. Obviously, diehard Jurassic Park fans, you probably know all this, or probably have your own theories, or this, that, and the other. And now this is interesting to talk about, because I think what a lot of people tend to forget is that Jurassic Park has several scenes, even in the sequels, where it's not the dinosaurs that are the immediate threat. Obviously in this scene we've got the car chasing them down the tree. That's the danger. And later on, we have the Ellie turning the fences back on when Tim's climbing the fence, and there's no dinosaurs. Obviously, you got the threat of the T-Rex coming, but again, it's not the dinosaurs that are the problem. In the Lost World, it's with the trailers over the cliff. I think there's another example in The Lost World, but I'll have to try and remember it. It's very hard to think about that film when I'm watching the first one. I've always found it aesthetically pleasing when it cuts from the muddy, overturned car to this, shiny Land Cruiser and the blue hue of the T-Rex Paddock. I've always found it really nice to just see that cut. It always gets me excited for this scene because this is one of my favourite dinosaur sequences in the first movie. You hear the T-Rex roaring in the distance. Such a menacing roar. Could you imagine actually being there and hearing that? It'd be insane. Knowing that it's like this ridiculously huge super predator, like a 7-ton predator just wandering around the area you're in. Especially for characters like Ellie, because we've got to think Malcolm's seen this thing up close. Muldoon obviously knows what it looks like, but Ellie, at this point, she doesn't know what the T-Rex looks like. She's only heard it. Here we go. Look, she follows the debris, and then realizes that the other car is there. She gets there and discovers the footprints and knows that they're still alive. So there is hope yet. Well, obviously, we hear the impact tremors again, so the T-Rex is making itself known. It's possibly the impact tremors is a good sign that it's on the hunt. Or maybe, no, maybe the impact tremors are not because it's on the hunt, because as we know with the Galamimus and the Raptors, it can sneak up as a perfect ambush predator, but maybe the impact tremors are, as it's just sort of exploring, it's just casually exploring. And obviously wandering around Isla Nublar, it's not really going to find much until suddenly it bursts from the trees and sees this glowing Jeep. I say glowing because of the 2 yellow lights on the back. They're almost like yellow flares driving away. And this is the scene that I remember the most as a kid from watching it in the cinema. I just remember watching this and being blown away by what I was watching. And I love that the T-Rex cannot, keep up with the car. They keep it very real. Malcolm in this scene when he says, "Must go faster." Obviously Jeff Goldblum says that same line in Independence Day, which is kind of funny to think that, like, were they trying to make that a catchphrase of Jeff Goldblum, or was that his idea? Or was it a homage by Roland Emmerich to this film? I don't know, but it's kind of a strange coincidence. Then we've got this very old, mangled tree, which I would love to climb. I'm not going to lie. I used to climb a lot of trees in my childhood and in my teenage years, because living out in the country, there's not much to do out there, so you just climb trees. And even though this tree is fake, it's one that I would love to climb. Got a nice shot of all the Brachiosaurus singing, which is nice because it's like how whales sing underwater, these huge giant creatures, and it's nice that they added that in. Then Grant uses his musical talents as a dinosaur communicator to call the Brachiosaurus up. Obviously he does that again in Jurassic Park 3, but with a flute. See, what I wouldn't give to be Tim right now, looking out over that and just being like, this is amazing. Just seeing them grazing on the treetops so peacefully. Grant pulls out the sickle claw of the raptor that he discovered at the start of the movie. And it's quite nice to think that, you know, the fossil was digging in his back. And in this line, she says, Lex asks him, what are you going to do now? And he says, I guess we'll just have to evolve too. And it's harkening back again to his character arc, that, you know, with the dinosaurs right in front of him, the genetic technology is sort of making him his profession a sort of dying art. And, you know, the fact that it's digging in his back in that scene is almost like it's a thorn in his side, and he pulls it out and throws it away. And when he says, I've got to evolve too, we've got to evolve too, it's kind of saying that I've always got that from this scene that he's almost giving up being a paleontologist. He's realised that the world is changing around him, and it's also a thing where maybe he has to realise that he should have children with Ellie, essentially. Speaking of which, here she is in a great monologue scene with her and Richard Attenborough. And John Hammond, this is my favourite John Hammond scene from the first film. I don't think anyone would really argue with that, because it gave us such an insight into his character and the fallen god. I mean, I think it's no surprise to people that, you know, his costume design, the white and the white beard, is meant to emulate a sort of almost that classic image of a god. I say a god, I mean like the cartoonish Christian god, I guess. The white bearded man on a cloud. But he's obviously torn by his morals in this sequence and questioning his motives. And Ellie Sattler's here to tell him off. Basically say, you're wrong. Yes, you've got a sad story, but you still have time for redemption. Now, they cross wires here in this sense. He says, I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion, something that was real, that they can see and touch. And Ellie says, it's all an illusion. But then she says, I was overwhelmed by the power of this place. And she's sort of saying that the control of this place was an illusion, where he's talking about, I just wanted to give them something real. Something that was alive, that wasn't fiction. I feel like I get the sense they're almost talking about two different things there, but you know, it still flows perfect, like from one sentence to another in a way. Oh yes, no, there you go. I got it wrong. He says, when we have control again, that's it. So she's saying it was all an illusion anyway, like his understanding of what's going on. So yeah, it works. They're not crossing wires. Hammond's cane, he's got it leant up against the table there. I saw that when I went to Universal Studios in LA. They have that there with a baby Triceratops and the actual prop. And it's actually a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. I mean, shorter, like it's a short stick. He spared no expense. And here we see the Brachiosaurus lean in. Stan Winston's animatronics at work again. And I love how placid the Brachiosaurus are. I love how it just lets them stroke its nose and stuff. It's just one of those moments where it's like, oh my god, if I could be those characters right now, it'd be amazing. And that's another thing I love about this movie is the sounds they give the dinosaurs were so brilliant because they felt so real. Like the Brachiosaurus, in my opinion, has some of the best sounds of any of the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. It sounds so huge and so, you've got to think the lungs are down in its chest and it sounds like the air is being forced at a very powerful rate up that long neck and out of the nostrils on the top of its head. The sound designers did an amazing work with this film and deserved every bit of praise they got. God bless you. And here we go. So Grant is about to suss out the crux of the entire breeding problem on this island. He's realizing that Malcolm was right, that life can't be contained. The animals will breed and whatnot, and then thanks to the frog DNA. And we come full circle from the seatbelt metaphor that was painted at the beginning of the film, where it was the two female ends that couldn't fit together, and then Grant worked it out, and then now he's working out another problem with two female ends. So one way of putting it. Let's just leave it at that. It always makes me laugh that he sniffs that egg. Like you can't expect him to start licking it. starts like eating the shell, and Lex and Tim are like, "What the hell are you doing?" And there you go. You can see what I was saying earlier. The little footprints of the raptors, and they've instantly ran away from the eggs. So it shows how sort of nimble they can be. Cool. Look at that sexy shot of Jeff Goldblum. A shot you never thought you'd see in a movie like this. I guess. And you can see Ray Arnold's pink socks there. Possibly official Jurassic Park workman socks because they all wear pink. This is where they talk about the lysine contingency, which is sort of a mistake in a way, because they say the lysine contingency, they could put that into effect, which will kill all the dinosaurs because they need lysine to live. So the humans provide the lysine to the animals. But then in the Lost World, they discover that the animals have been thriving because some plants have lysine in them. And it's a pretty well-known fact that pretty much most plants have lysine in it anyway. So the fact that the dinosaurs could live on Nublar without humans providing lysine, is a problem that maybe they overlooked. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I can overlook that. It's not too much of a problem. No one's going to be losing sleep over that. Hold on to your butts. I'd love to have been in the meeting when Spielberg and David, not and Michael Crichton came up with that line, where they were just like, "Should we just get him to constantly say, 'Hold on to your butts'?" System ready. Now this is a thing where, in this situation, if Ray Arnold said, "I'm going to go to the shed to turn the power on, I'll be in 5 or 6 minutes or whatever, I'll have the power on in the entire park," I would have been like, "Yeah, someone give me a spaz shotgun, and I'll go with him," because we cannot afford to take any risks at this point. So having a character go off on his own is a huge risk. And here we're in Galamimus Valley. So you can see all the Galamimus running, and they're obviously running away from the T-Rex at this point. The assumption being that they obviously don't know where the T-Rex is, but they can sense it, or they've possibly seen it. And even Grant says, look at the way they're flocking, just like a flock of birds evading a predator, which is what they're essentially doing. Whether the smell of the T-Rex is in the air, we won't know until they release the 6D version of Jurassic Park with smell-o-vision, where you can smell everything on screen. This scene is just fantastic. So you see all the Galamimus jumping over the log. And then, again, the T-Rex just bursts forward like the perfect ambush predator it is. Which is what a lot of scientists theorize it was. An ambush predator. And for those people who are saying T-Rex was only a scavenger, in my opinion, that's rubbish. Because, of course, every predator on the planet is a scavenger. If it's hungry and it finds some carrion, it's going to eat. But the T-Rex has such powerful legs and such a huge jaw that it wasn't built like that just to feed off carcasses. In my opinion, it would have been exactly sort of, I'm going to sound a bit biased here, but what we see in Jurassic Park, the T-Rex bursts forward in ambush. So when it hunts, it gets very close to its prey, and then in a short burst of speed, it attacks. Not for very long. Obviously, in this film, when it sees the Jeep, it comes out of the bushes and sees the Jeep by surprise. It's not necessarily hunting the Jeep or the humans, and then chases them for a short period of time, but then very quickly gives up. Now, what fans wouldn't give to have those blueprints that John Hammond just pulled out? I wonder what was drawn on them, because it had a big Jurassic Park logo on the front. I wonder what they're looking at. Okay, I'm going to quickly answer another question. Okay, James Hawkins asks, what scene adaptation would you add from the novel and put into this movie, despite other films possibly covering it for just for Jurassic Park 1? Okay, so if I could take something from the books and put it into this movie, I think the T-Rex waterfall sequence is what I would have, where it bursts through the waterfall to try and get Lex and Tim as Grant is trying to find a way to get a Jeep. Obviously, in the Lost World film, they sort of homage that in a way with the T-Rex coming through the waterfall, but I would have it more like it is in the book, where behind the sheet of water there is part of a bunker, and the T-Rex standing outside of the water and then turning its head and slowly pushing its head through the water would be terrifying. So that's what I would do. Again, Muldoon showing cracks in his awesomeness when he says, "Damn it, even Nedry knew better than." Damn it, even Nedry knew better to turn off the. Wait, what's the line? Getting it wrong. Damn it, even Nedry knew not to mess with the raptor fences. Something like that. It's like, yeah, you didn't think, did you, Muldoon? I remember taking this on VHS to a friend's house years and years and years ago when I was about 6 or 7. And when it got to this scene, my friend was very scared. Where it was the look in Muldoon's eyes that, put fear in her. I just remember that moment from my childhood because I was all giddy, like showing someone for the first time this movie they'd never seen, but they were sitting there, crapping their pants. Now, interesting to note that I always start a sentence with that. Interesting to note that the big one, the raptor that Muldoon mentions and quotes, he calls it the big one, is actually in this movie. I'll be pointing it out as the movie goes, because she is a formidable force and one of the best raptors in the series. She has a real character. So obviously this has always irked me as a kid. In this sequence, like the holes in the fence are big enough for Tim and possibly Lex to climb through. The one that's underneath Alan Grant's right hand right now is huge. So why did the kids have to climb all the way over? I can understand Grant because he's a lot bigger. They show it here with him trying to get his head through. But then you can see some of the other holes down near his legs that are just massive. It's like in a cartoon where, it's like in a cartoon where there's a character trapped in a prison cell and the bars are so wide that you think, why don't you just slip through the bars? But I've never lost sleep over that. I've always found the scene very exciting. Another siren, my word, they are on force today. Yeah, out in force today. Now this is the perimeter fence that they're climbing over. And Ellie makes her way deep into the shed. Deep into darkness. That's a very cool shot when it goes underneath the fence. I always loved this sequence when I was a kid. The whole, bringing the power back online by pumping this grey handle and pressing the green button and all the lights and flicker. It was very pleasing to the eyes. Very satisfying sounds too. Accompanied by John Williams' fantastic score. When it's like this bit when he says push to close and it's like or something along those lines. It's a very tense moment. Now, it is tense because obviously they don't know where the Grant and the kids are, so this is a risk doing all this. Now, I love reading all those. There was one called the Carnivore Feeding Compound, so I'm guessing that's the... I don't know, I think it did say Raptor Feeding Pen, so I don't know if that's a different place. Let's see if I can see it again. It was the hatchery. Because obviously a lot of the... Yes, Velociraptor pen fence. T-Rex fence, perimeter fence. Yeah, carnivore feeding. I guess that must be the raptor feeding pen then. Now this raptor we see here, this isn't the big one. This is just one of the other raptors. A classic jump scare where it bursts through and has the light sizzling on top of its head. It's very horror-esque. Many sort of horror traits in this, like this arm. It's almost like a ghost house. You got the raptor awkwardly tearing off the mesh wiring, and then boom! Such a fantastic atmospheric moment in the movie. I love the idea of the power shed deep in the jungle. It's like a place you really don't want to go into because of what monsters might be lurking in the dark. Now, obviously, that isn't the last time we see that raptor, the one that's in the shed. It does make a comeback later on. But we'll get to that later. So here we go, Muldoon making a fatal error. He's falling for the raptor's trick right here. There's one stood in front of him just acting all, casual. Just chilling in the bush. And it's quite funny because he's looking at it right in the eye. It's looking directly at him because obviously the eyes are on the front of its head. So it's looking at him. He knows it can see him. So obviously, and that's the big one, clever girl. Or is it actually? I get confused, but I think either that one eating Muldoon is the big one, or this one's the big one watching. But I like to think that the big one is the one that eats Muldoon because, she is the leader of their small pack, their trio of raptors. Luckily, Tim lives. Tim Vincible, as me and Bam Sam call him. The kid who just won't die. He's thrown down in a car down a vertical sort of concrete ledge into a tree. The same car chases him down the tree. He gets electrocuted with God knows what. He escapes raptors in a kitchen, and he survives a rib cage falling on top of him because luckily he's lying in the right place for the ribs to hit the ground and break around him. He's I don't know whatever he's been smoking, but I'll have whatever Tim's having because he seems to be a very well looked after individual with lady luck. And not only that, he gets rewarded by this lovely mountain of food, which must have been sitting there for at least 2 days. Well, actually, no, it's 48 hours, so I guess the night before, or the evening before, I guess. They're all chowing down on their dinner. It's very it makes me very hungry whenever I see this scene. It really gets to me when they make food look really good, even that green jelly. So this silhouette here we see right now, that is the big one. She's making her entrance into the visitors center. And now we enter the classic kitchen scene, which a lot of people some people I've read online who have said that when they first saw this recently, like these are for people who haven't seen Jurassic Park or grew up with it and they watch it now, they say that the tense the I don't know, the scare factor is somewhat numbed because you've got the child actors in there and you know that they're going to survive. They're not going to have a raptor suddenly tear off one of these children's faces. But I've never not been sort of on the edge when watching this sequence. So yes, he says, are you sure the third one's contained? So we know that there's 3 raptors in the film. There's the big one and then her 2 henchmen, in a way. And this is the big one now, opening the door and sussing out. And obviously the one in the shed has learnt this as well, because it makes a comeback later on. Timmy, what is it? It's a velociraptor. Outside. And then this raptor, the big one, calls the other one. Calls the other one to battle, in a way. And she turns and snaps at the other one to sort of say that I'm the lookout, I'm hunting here. Keep your nose back. It's just such an awesome sequence. I love the idea of these animals being in an environment that is very familiar to us. They've now entered our territory in a way. And that's why I like to think the raptors aren't running around all crazy, because they're obviously sussing out this new sort of steel world that they've entered into. Obviously they know the kids are in there as well and they're hunting them, but they're being a bit cautious about it. Until they hear something. And I love that the raptors in this, you don't really see it in any of the other films. Their throats are almost like frog throats. They really like inflate outwards when they sort of roar or growl or breathe. Like the bottom of their necks really inflate, and I really like that. It's a character trait that I think's in the in the second film to some extent, but we've never really seen it anywhere else aside from. I think there's a raptor in the trailer for Jurassic World that does it. Which, if they do have that as a sort of trait for the raptors in the new film, hats off to the filmmakers for that. Here we see Tim running away. This raptor. This is the last we see of this raptor, essentially. It gets locked in the fridge. And this is a scene that's sort of taken from the book. So the raptor is taken down by slippery floors. Slippery, icy floors. And the kids lock it in there. So now that raptor is left to perish in the industrial-sized freezer. And the big one sees the kids run and does this menacing, sort of almost villainous snarl at the camera. And this is where essentially now we've got the characters are now going to be basically fending off from the raptor that is known as the big one, as I keep saying. But this is her moment in the movie. She's the only raptor now until the very climax that they're fending off. And she is a clever one because she's trying to open the door, and she tries every single means possible to try and get these people. And it's not necessarily for food. I think she just wants to kill them because she doesn't want them around for whatever reason. Maybe it's the way she's been treated. By the way, just to backtrack, I said there's 3 raptors on the island, but obviously with the eggs that Grant discovered, there's obviously a lot more now. It always makes me laugh that Tim doesn't go and get the gun when he's not doing anything. But it's cool that Lex, says she was a hacker and all this sort of stuff, and she gets to essentially save the day by turning the power on. And she is, the exact opposite to Nedry in a way. He is also a hacker, as Arnold points out when he's like, "I hate this hacker crap." He needs someone like Lex on the case, which would have been, that's foreshadowed earlier on in the film as well, because she's excited by the touchscreens in the cars. Call the mainland. Tell them to send the damn helicopters. And here we have the Raptor trying to burst through the glass to try and get them. And unfortunately for them, Grant shooting at the Raptor has loosened the glass, I guess, so she can burst through. Now this is such an amazing shot coming up. I love the Raptor looking up and sussing out that they're in the ceiling. But I also love that I used it in my top 10 CGI shots from movies, my YouTube video. This one where Grant kicks it in the head and it falls down. This shot here, I think that out of all the CGI shots ever in film, this is the most amazing one ever. Because it shows real weight and the way the Raptor falls into the light, and you just never seen anything like it before this film was released. So to me, it's my favourite use of the art form. And here we go, the climactic finale of Jurassic Park. If ever there was a perfect ending to this story arc, you've got the literal humans, or let's say the metaphorical family, climbing over the bones of the very things that are trying to kill them. The family unit, should I say, is climbing over the skeleton of the animals that are trying to eat them. And here we see Tim Vincible survive yet again another, life-threatening situation. Here we go. And now we see this Raptor coming through the hole in the side of the visitor centre is the one from the shed that Ellie locked away. It obviously opened the door and walked through. Now, little do the Raptors and the characters know, but that Raptor coming through the hole in the side of the visitor centre, which we can see here, is obviously being pursued by the T-Rex, who had seen it walking through the hole as well. So here we go. The Raptor's about to jump, and then all of a sudden, boom! Epic, climactic ending. The T-Rex obviously had followed it through. The perfect silent ambush predator. And the big one, the one that is left, just forgets the humans and instantly starts attacking the T-Rex. And I love that about that Raptor as a character. Like this is a 7-ton. Obviously, it doesn't know the detail, but of its weight. But this is a huge, ridiculous predator standing in front of it, and it just doesn't care. It just attacks at any cost to kill this T-Rex. But the T-Rex is the dominant predator, and the most iconic Jurassic Park image of the banner falling down is the ending of the movie in a way. Obviously, a few seconds ago, we just saw the Jurassic Park logo with the mud all splattered across it, which is a juxtaposition to the shot of the door opening at the start of the film, and we see it all pristine and new. And Hammond looks back on his dream. And yeah, it's very a subtle but sad moment. And then we see Hammond staring at the cane, thinking about what's gone wrong, and we have Ellie and Malcolm sitting there. Malcolm's actually silent and not even looking at anyone. And Grant and the kids are asleep, exhausted from their adventures. But this is nice because we have Ellie look at Grant here, and he gives a sort of subtle smile and looks at the kids, and that lets us know that he's gonna be all right. Obviously, Jurassic Park 3, and I'll get to this when I do my commentary, unravels this beautiful story arc completely. And it's also nice that he looks out of the window and sees these pelicans, the modern day dinosaurs, flying alongside the helicopter, which is a really nice ending to this movie. And there we go, Jurassic Park. Now, I've been talking for 2 hours just non-stop. My voice is all, croaky, but there's so much stuff I could talk about this movie. I've forgotten a lot of things. I've purposely left out a few things because, can't talk about everything and I've got to fit it into 2 hours. So maybe if we do another one for the podcast or, later on down the line, we'll see. But there we go. That was Jurassic Park. Jurassic World's coming out, so we're all excited about that. I will be doing a commentary for The Lost World in the next few days after this one, and Jurassic Park 3 before the release of Jurassic World. So everyone can, if you want to, pop in your Blu-rays and listen to this commentary and join in on the I don't know, I guess the beginning of a new era. It's strange to think because I'm recording this moments away from the fourth film coming out. But this is the time where only Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3 exist as films that we know very, very well because we all own them on DVD. And we've had this era for so long, 14 years, and it's now about to change. We're about to have a fourth chapter in the franchise, and it's just amazing to think that whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that it's just, as Jurassic Park fans, we have something to sort of celebrate. So there we go. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this commentary. Look out for the Lost World one coming soon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, all that nonsense, and have a lovely day, everyone.